So Thomas, thanks again for joining me and also being a sponsor to Underdog AdCon. I'm so excited, and I think a lot of people are going to benefit from your knowledge, from your sharing, and also meeting you in person. The best introductions is always done by the person themselves, you. So maybe tell us who you are, what you do, and yeah.
Thanks for having me, Ruben. So I really enjoyed your newsletter lately. I've been getting a lot of learnings and insights. And so I'm currently pursuing more like a consultancy business. So I'm a Notion consultant. So and also part of their ambassador program. So basically ambassador means like you help them with their communities to share works about Notions. So as far as I'm aware of, I'm kind of the second one in Malaysia. So one of my mission is to help people to actually streamline the process to make it meaningful and then to be mindful. So basically it's a system where you can manage your Kanban. So you can make mix of Trello, you can mix of Google Sheets, Excel, you can mix of calendar. So there are a lot of different things here combined together.
So let's rewind a little bit. Before going into Notion, becoming a consultant, becoming the ambassador, what were you doing and how did you actually get into the whole notion of Notion?
So I used to study in Japan. Like I actually speak Japanese. Like I was working as a translator as well at some point. After coming back from Japan, I studied in Tokyo. I worked in AstraZeneca. So you know the vaccine company. And then slowly I moved to more onto project management, which is more on IT automations and then process improvement. So that's where I gained most of my experience, like using corporate tools, like for example, Jira, Asana, like Salesforce. I've been getting quite good results, like just in terms of work and satisfaction. But then COVID hits, so a lot of things happen to different people. I guess I was kind of burnt out during that time. So that actually prompted me like to kind of do some soul searching, like, oh, what do I want to do? So I actually stay in one place for 3 months and then I go to another states. So basically in Malaysia. So I travel from Penang like to Malacca, like
Oh, you did that in Malaysia itself?
Yeah. I
Oh,
did that in
wow.
Malaysia.
Okay.
Yeah, after that, just knowing a lot more people and then just learning what I want. So actually the first thing that I did is actually not setting up my Notion consultant. On the side, I actually am also studying Masters of Psychotherapy, so counseling, which is actually totally off field. But yeah, that's something that I'm currently pursuing my masters and also doing my business.
Right. I think there's never too many things we can do at one time if you are focused and if you really know what you want to do. But I really like the way you actually, like, you know, the way we connected, right? I saw you posting on the groups. You look to connect to someone and then you send a link, right, for people to, you know, join a meeting, to book a time with you, right? I think that's good. I think a lot of people are not doing enough of that. They are just going straight for the kill. But the way you done it is it's different. It's subtle but very different, where you first build a connection with someone and then get that someone who is interested jump on a call with you, and then, you know, the later stages come in. And I remember being on our first call, you didn't even sell me anything because you felt like, okay, I'm not ready for whatever you have to offer, compared to a lot of other businesses, right, and entrepreneurs who will just sell anything on the first go, you know, whenever they can. So I thought it was a very smooth approach of doing things. Is that something you learned from somewhere or something you discovered along the way?
I used to be like high achiever, you know, oh, I can learn everything myself. So like entrepreneur is like, oh, it's easy, you know, just have to get my feet wet. Based on my previous experience of like just game development, I actually learned that I need help. So what changes for me the most is actually get coach. So I actually attended like a coaching, it's more like a workshop coaching session. And then my coach is more like a marketing consultant. Yeah, it's especially difficult to find coach as well, especially online. Like there are so many like hype stuff, people like more on the mental side.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate my coach. And one thing that you wrote about Hawoku, I think one of your main sponsors, right? I read one of the notes that you wrote about the founders, like how he initially started, right? Like getting leads or just reaching out there. It's on like commenting on Reddit's hacker sites, right? So that's exactly what I'm doing now. So I actually resonate through that. It's like, yeah, just a lot of hard work, like answering questions like that people might not even see, but just slowly build up. So yeah, I think the takeaway is just that, yeah, get a coach or get a school or something to study about entrepreneur. It's very difficult. You can't do it yourself.
Right. You want to give a shout out to that your coach?
It's called RJ Youngling, so you can find his website.
Let's get back to Notion, right? When it comes to Notion, I'm sure prior to becoming a Notion consultant, you saw a problem in the market. What is that problem?
Because I was in a corporate, right? So we actually build solutions just for the sake of building it a lot of times. It's sometimes unfortunate, but that's kind of the KPI things. Like, so what I normally found is just that instead of actually building like fancy tools like or systems, automations, to actually, I call it like a patchwork, you know, the thing's already broken, right? You kind of put a fancy things on top and try to fix it. So I actually found it like Notion is actually like very meaningful, mindful ways of actually just simplify your process. Although like you say it's yourself, it's like a PhD. So it's true on that side. But then also another end is more like just simplify it. It can be just like open a new notes and just write down the notes and then share with your colleagues. It can be like Kanban, can be a calendar. They are more like aesthetic. So they have to, it's a bit weird, like they have two sides of markets right now.
Yeah.
So you have this like aesthetic markets where people actually like build very pretty templates, have like very pretty photos. And then there's another side that's more for business owners that people actually use it for 500 to 1,000 customers, like the teams. So it's actually used for serious business. But that's what I like about it. It's like, it actually makes me want to write SOPs. Like previously in my previous company, I actually don't like writing SOPs. But then Notion actually trains me to be mindful of what I actually do. So that I don't always repeat the same thing, right? It's okay, I've done this already and I'm going to do it again. But every time I do it slightly differently. And then I pass it down to my colleagues, my staff, and then they have no idea what to do. Yeah, it just saves a lot of time, like in general.
I think in a way, it's also forcing companies to adopt a system that everyone can follow and basically having this set of guidelines, right? So that even if someone leaves the company, their junior or the person who succeeds them, right, can also continue doing and doing the work based off a guideline or based off a template or something that has been set in place rather than starting from ground zero again. So I think that's the real value that Notion brings into companies. What are some of the common rejections or common complaints you hear from companies? Like, I know some companies who would be like, oh, we just use Google Sheets, Google Docs lah. We don't need this Notion thingy, too complicated, I'm sure you've seen this kind of customers and faced this kind of customers, clients before, right? So how do you handle that? And where do they find that aha moment?
There are two types of client in general. So one that the founder is very savvy of Notion. So they are already like a champion of Notions. They actually push it to their team. So those I would say like the easy clients. And then we have the second type is more like, for example, currently I'm working with Toothsuit. So it's more like a bigger company, right? And then I'm working with their sales team. So they already have like an existing process. And then some of the stuff, they are less tech savvy, right? Like you mentioned, they are used to Excel. So it's actually very difficult for me to onboard them. Like for example, like there are a lot of trainings required just to teach them how to use it. And there are a lot of frustrations. So what I noticed is, and after talking to a lot of different consultants as well, is empathy. I actually need to feel like, the pain that their feelings, what are the frustrations, and how I can actually help them. So for example, if Notion is not the way for them, right? At least for maybe the admin staff, they are more used to Excel. So there are tools for Notion as well. It's called Notion to Sync. I think Sync to, something like that. Basically, it syncs to Google Sheets. So you can have like a traditional experience for specific teams. For example, maybe the admin team, right? They are used to the Excel, they have pivot tables. So they can use that while the rest of the teams can use Notion. So at the end of the day, the goal is to have everything in one place, right? So it kind of doesn't matter like what tools you use, but you just want the information to be in the same space. So that's one thing. Second is you definitely need like someone like a lead team. So basically there's one person in that team, right? So I normally call it champions. So basically like there's one person that actually very passionate about new technology, gadgets. So that person will be the person I talk to the most, just teach them how they can use Notion when I'm off the work, right? So they will be the person to support, because without that person, like anything can break. So you have used Notion yourself. Sometimes Notion just breaks. You actually need someone to be there to help with the support and maintenance.
Yeah, I think with most softwares also there has to be a software consultant. I mean, if you look at big corporates as well, even if they onboard into large systems like Tableau, those data analytics softwares, Tableau, whichever, Power BI, we see there's this need for consultants to come in and to help to customize and cater the software towards the company. So I think that's where you come in as a Notion consultant to also mold Notion system into a company as well. What are the most common problems you normally see a company have or faces in terms of project management or in terms of being streamlined?
I always ask them like, so what's your burning problems? What's your pain points? Because without that, I actually wouldn't recommend Notion to people. The most common questions, like problems that people have is, what's this double entry? They have a lot of different data in different formats. Some have in email, some within Excel, Google Sheets. So there's no centralized place. So when they want to access something, they can't find it. And second is project management. A lot of times people actually don't keep track of their tasks. They don't assign it.
Yeah.
So it just get lost in the void. So nobody knows who's supposed to do what. So even just a simple Kanban, right? It can be Trello, to be honest. It doesn't have to be Notion. But people just don't do that. And then the third one is SOPs. Normally in bigger companies, we have something called like operation teams. So the person that actually create all these SOPs, like guides. But then maybe for like smaller teams or maybe Malaysian, like we are not that diligent. So they don't have that teams to actually create all these SOPs. And a lot of times they want to Notion, like because Notion is like very pretty, like it's very easy to create guides, right? So that's where actually recommend people to use that as well. And then the fourth one is more on the calendar. I believe this is more like a practice like most majority of Malaysian. But a lot of my clients is just that they like to have the calendar view to actually just sort everything into Notion so that you can see what each other are doing. And then you also can see just yourself. So just a lot of filters so you can see what is going on within your team.
So like you mentioned, like, you know, some of these things you don't even need Notion. You need something like maybe like Trello to project manage, to see what's up next, what is currently being done right now, what is completed, what is in review, and all that kind of stuff, right? Do you think it's more of a behavior problem compared to software problem, or what is the, you know, the challenges you normally see when people are, they have the software in front of them but they don't use it, or what do you normally see?
Of course, we can use different tools to solve all these problems. And generally, I would recommend people, because I'm quite a savvy person on using different tools. So I'll tell you, you can actually use like Calendly to schedule meetings. You can use Trello for Kanban. But for Notion, the difference is that you actually can design it based on the user's preference. And then you can design, like, you can include image. You can have like more mindful things. For example, I have like a weekly planner. So once you open the page, right, you can actually see like what are available tasks, and then what's your goals. Have you achieved it? If you achieve it, just click tick. And then once you tick it, right, you can actually send to your manager, your boss, so he can review it. So all this can be done seamlessly. You want to make sure that the person that is using, right, they actually feel the benefits of using it. Not like, for example, it's like time tracker. So I ask you, okay, so staff A, go punch your card. So I need to know what time you're working. Instead of doing that, so what we can do in Notion is, so basically I have this task, okay, I'm going to have this meeting. You can just put like 1 hour estimations, and then you can fill like few tasks fill in. So automatically you just track like how many hours that you have been worked for this week without even like doing the time tracking. So it's just more meaningful ways of keeping data. It's like we're still asking the people to keep data, but then it has to make sense to them. It has to benefit them.
I mean, the person using it has to find a reason for them to use it. If not, they won't use it. I think that's true for every company, every employee, every people who is in the workforce out there.
Another example is that I have this company, they use SAP for their CRM. But basically nobody use it, even though SAP has quite a good like dashboards functionality there. So the problem is not even about the dashboard, like they have the good dashboard, but nobody's using it. So that's why like I recommend them to use Notion, like just to make the process more seamless. And then we can build the dashboard for them. So sometimes it's kind of weird, like people don't want to use the tools. It's not even the tools not good, because it doesn't really speaks to them, I would say.
And when I'm sure you faced such situations before, right? How do you solve them, or how do you see it being resolved? Is it more training, more workshops, or do you provide templates, or what are some ways you can solve that kind of problem when people don't want to use something?
To be honest, that's always the $1,000,000 question. I've built a lot of stuff in my past, even from my Notion or my previous job, right? That people actually don't use the system. Like, you always kind of feel like a bit sad, like, oh, actually we spend so much time like on this project, you actually don't use it. Nowadays, I think I found just to be mindful of is when I reach out to clients, just make sure whether it's a pain point to them. That's why I don't force people to adopt Notion. It's, even if I'm a very good salesman, right? I try to convince you using my, charisma, but then at the end of the day, you actually don't have these pain points. You don't use it. So there's no point of it. So that's the first thing, like you have to align. Second is like you mentioned, like trainings and webinar. So which is actually something I'm doing more often now. I'm doing one for accounting school next week. And then there's one for Underdog.com, right? And then end of this week also, I'm just doing more awareness things on how people actually can use Notion. It's not even about the system itself, more like how you can actually keep track of your companies, what are the best practices in the industries that people are currently doing. It can be just, you can put in Excel file, to be honest. In my case, I'm using Notion as the tool, but it's not the solution. Like,
are there a lot of companies in Malaysia using Notion already, or not yet?
So I actually have like a community, like it's called Notion MY. So this is just a group of like Notion enthusiasts, like people that really likes Notion. So there are a few people that are actually using Notions. But in Malaysia, I feel like the one I heard the most biggest is just Zeus Coffee. The rest maybe like smaller one. There are maybe like startups, entrepreneurs. But to be honest, it's not that much at the moment. It's probably still something quite new to the Malaysia market.
Oh, by the way, Zeus Coffee is also coming to the conference. Yeah, so I was wondering, right, like a lot of these, companies that uses Notion, I assume are going to be the more techie companies.
Yeah, I would agree. So like so far, like a lot of them are more techie, and then they actually promote it. And then normally I find the most use case is more international companies where there are a lot of collaborations like overseas, because they don't actually get to meet face to face, right? A lot of times they do online meetings. So actually having data being retained in one space and everyone knows what is going on is very important for them.
Maybe they're not brick and mortar. They have like teams all over the place, globally, those companies will find the biggest value, I would say, from adopting a software like Notion.
So for Malaysia, since I'm still quite new to it, like I'm just starting my outreach. So far, I'm still trying to find out like what's the pain points. So if you guys are hearing this, let me know. Maybe we can see what we can work out.
So I think that the level of customization you just described, right, is something that normal people like me wouldn't know how to do, you know. And I didn't know you can do that in Notion also. So I think it's a lot to do with awareness. I think people have to see examples and case studies of you know, a company using Notion to do like what you just described. And like, oh, okay. Then now I get ideas. Can I do that for my own company? You know, I think it's really just a game of awareness at this stage. Like.
Yeah, this another thing. Like I'm planning to have a newsletter like hopefully by end of this week. So the focus will be on just what are the examples that companies are using Notion for.
Yeah.
So it's something more like for my personal learning as well. Also share with the people so to gain awareness.
I mean, I hope this interview that we're doing right now would actually reach more people, and then they would go and check out Notion. But quick one, where can people find you? Those who are listening or those who are watching this, where can they find you? Any links you can share with them?
Yeah, the easiest way you can just find on my company website. So it's called digital-cookie.com. Other than that, you can find me on like Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. So I'm called Thomas Young. So you should be able to find me. But yeah, you can just go to my website. So you will have everything, the links there.
So a quick question, right? What's the best process for someone who have not used Notion to onboard? Should they jump straight into templates, or should they try to build something on their own, or should they look at case studies first? Or should they talk to Thomas Young first?
I would say the best way is go YouTube first, just to get a sense of what Notion is. Of course, you can find me. So normally how the journey of people actually adopt Notion is like they Google about Notion, they saw it, and then they watch YouTube, and then they try out templates, and then it doesn't work because it's too complicated.
Yeah.
Just the template is built not for them. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not that the template is bad itself. Uh-huh. It's just not tailored for them. Mm-hmm. And then they'll find a consultant to fix it. So that's actually like 50% of my clients. So they give me, okay, can you help me to fix these templates? But yeah, I would recommend like just get a bit of sense of what Notion is. And then you can reach out to me like or other consultants just to give you more clarity. So normally what we do is we actually just do an audit. We don't actually force you to use anything. You just want to understand how you're actually using your business right now. So I'll write down like a business process, what actually going on in your company, and then I'll provide recommendations. So just to give you more clarities on what is going on.
Okay. Sounds like a pretty good proposition, and definitely I think you're right. I think most people who would take up a consulting time with you would be those people who have tried templates. Like I've tried templates before, and then it doesn't work for me because it's not built for me. Tried editing it, don't know how to edit because it's overly complicated, and then I felt like I waste a lot of time. So I think that's where you step in. But before knowing you, I didn't know anybody who could help me with this, right? And all I could do is just look at YouTube videos online and all that, and I must say not very helpful to the extent of, you know, there's no hand holding. So it's definitely good to have someone like you in the Malaysian space, you know, helping businesses to optimize their process better, I guess.
You delegate to us, right? You focus on your business, so you earn money, then we help you to optimize your system.
Yeah,
so that's kind of how it works.
Yeah, I think that's a good you know, a good quote or tagline you can add to your to your landing pages, to your business. I think that really works really well.